It's the 50-year-old ongoing wine fight. What happens when Napa Valley fruit and power meets Bordeaux elegance and balance? Today, we're going to relive the 1976 Judgment of Paris right here on YouTube. Two equal wines, two passionate and dedicated crowds, two worthy contenders, and one main grape, Cabernet Sauvignon. And there are already allegations of dirty, underhanded cheating in this grand wine fight. I'm John Alanis. I'm a certified sommelier, and today I will be refereeing this grueling wine fight from start to finish. It is my pleasure. There may be ties in the NFL, but there are no ties in a wine fight, and this might just come down to the last drop. A winner will be declared, and the king of Cabernet Sauvignon will be crowned. So today, representing Napa Valley, it's the Napanook 2020 versus the 2018 Grand Puy Lacoste, representing Pauillac in Bordeaux in an extreme wine fight to the death. These two contenders, they just don't like each other, and both bottles will be consumed. What we have here, two fantastic wines, two legendary regions, but which one is going to earn the prestige of my famous whole bottle review winner and be crowned by me the king of Cab? We'll compare them side by side, bottle by bottle, drop by drop, and only then will I declare the winner. What we have here is we have really equal quality between these two wines. We have different styles and different experiences. In the Napa Cab, what you're going to get, ripe fruit, smooth round tannins, well integrated oak, and certainly a full body. But the contender, the Napanook 2020, it's not jammy, it's not syrupy, it's not over oak. It's a worthy Napa Cab. It's 14.5% ABV, not 16%, and it's just right for a full-bodied, ripe, but not overripe California Cab. But could this one be cheating, corking the bat? Well, stay tuned, and I'm going to tell you why it actually might be. This bottle right here has two secret advantages based on something really kind of cool that happened in the 2020 vintage. I'll tell you about it right before we start the opening round, but is it possible that this wine could be a ringer? The answer is yes, it could be, and I'm going to tell you why right before we start. With these two secrets, it might just have an unfair advantage over the Bordeaux. However, Bordeaux, if you're a Bordeaux lover, which I am, backs down from no wine whatsoever. It's got structure, it's got minerality, it has layers and layers of fruit that just unfold. It's a wine that evolves and changes in the bottle. It's got balance, it has precision, it has harmony, and it's got that magical divinity the French just seem to put in their wine. Both of them can give you a true magical wine experience in a completely different way. But when it comes to competition, honestly, these are two bottles and two crowds that just don't like each other. And this wine fight could get nasty, especially if our Bordeaux thinks that the California wine is cheating or somehow has an unfair advantage. Let's talk about what Napa brings to the table. Fruit, full, rich, ripe blackberry, black plum, cassis, a touch of graphite, tobacco. It's got well integrated oak, has a touch of vanilla and baking spice, but it's not over oak, and it doesn't have so much vanilla in it that you just have to dump it out. You might get a touch of mineral, but you're not going to get any earth. California is all about clean winemaking. That's their style. In California, they're going to feature the fruit. Now, you do get evolution and change as you go through the bottle, always featuring the fruit, but this wine here, it's not a fruit bomb. It's a fruit showcase, and it doesn't shy away from it. The power in this wine is in the fruit. So what does Bordeaux, particularly a Pauillac, bring to the table? It brings balance, it brings structure, it brings elegance. So what we're going to have in this bottle here is we're going to have ripe, but we're not going to have overripe fruit. We're going to have blackberry, cassis, some black plum. The fruit can definitely go head to head in these wines. Now what we're going to get here is we're definitely going to get structure. It's a somewhat cooler climate. Bordeaux's a maritime climate, so we may get a bit higher acid. We're going to get well integrated tannin. We're going to get balance between fruit and earth. We're going to get more minerality. We're probably going to get more tobacco from Pure Z. Get some cedar, and just like the California, a touch of vanilla from new oak. You're going to get a higher blend proportion than California. So literally with the Pauillac Bordeaux, this one has 70% Cabernet Sauvignon, 20% Merlot. As you go through the bottle, you can literally feel the blends start to come together. It's 14% ABV, so it's almost as full-bodied as our California competitor. The power in this wine comes from the balance of the well-integrated flavors supported by the structure of the tannins and the acidity. Pauillacs have rightfully been described as an iron fist and a velvet glove. They feel restrained until they land the first punch. Each region has devoted, passionate fans. There's California wine nerds who sneer at the dirty French wines. There's too much earth, there's too much tobacco, too much pyrazine, and they're too snooty. They won't even put the grape on their label. They're so arrogant. It's true, you won't find out what's in the wine from Bordeaux on its label. To me, that's pretty arrogant. Now, Bordeaux believers, of which I am one, but I am no California wine hater. Bordeaux believers, well, they say California is too one-dimensional. It's too overdone. There's no subtlety, there's no nuance, there's no expression of place, there's no terroir. The wines are just jammy, syrupy fruit bombs designed to get you drunk in 2 glasses so you'll believe anything about it. This competition could get heated because this is a classic of two teams that just don't like each other. But the French, they they have a surprise coming their way. So let's talk about vintages of each of these wines. The Bordeaux vintage 2018, a fine vintage in my estimation. The weather, it was a wet, difficult spring with mildew pressure. However, from July onwards, you get hot, dry, nearly perfect conditioning, and that leads to the grapes fully ripening and expressing their signature flavors. So the result, concentrated ripe fruit, yet with the classic structure of Bordeaux. And the style of the vintage compared to the 2015-16, I like both of those vintages quite a bit. The 2018s tend to be more powerful and more opulent, sort of closer to the 2009 vintage in character. And so that's a fine contender to take on California. This Bordeaux is bringing the strengths of California and the strengths of Bordeaux to the fight. Let's talk about the wine here. This is the Grand Puy Lacoste 2018. 78% Cabernet Sauvignon, 22% Merlot. And so that Merlot is going to give it a little bit of a softer, rounder, little more velvety mouthfeel. Could be an advantage. So what we're going to get from this is we're going to get aromas of blackcurrant, graphite, cedar, violet, cigar box. Very, very classic Pauillac. The palate is going to be full-bodied. It's going to have deep tannins, ripe but balanced fruit, freshness, and a nice touch of the Pauyac's iron fist and a velvet glove personality. That's one reason why I love Pauillacs personally. They're so smooth, and then boom, they just hit you with the power. They set you up and they take you out and you get up for the next sip. I just love the experience of Pauillacs. So it's elegant, but it has a backbone. It's a wine meant to age gracefully for decades, and it's definitely what you would call a counterpuncher. The alcohol, about 14%. Most Bordeaux are about 13.5%, so this one is a nice alcohol for a little bit of a warm vintage. This is going to give it maybe a medium plus body. And so the drinking window is 2026 to 2050, so we're drinking this just a touch young, just a little bit young, but I'm not one of those guys that always wants to look at a bottle of wine that I have and say, I need 10 years, I need 10 years, it needs 10 years until I'm dead. If I like this wine, which I know I'm going to love it, I'll go get another bottle in 10 years because there would still be some around. It's very useful now, but it is approachable with decanting, and so what I'm going to do is I am going to give this wine a good long 2 or so hour decant. I'm a decanter, and I'm not going to wait until 2050 or so to drink this wine. I am going to drink it now. Let's talk about the 2020 Napa vintage, because this is a very interesting vintage. There are a lot of challenges. 2020 was a very difficult year in Napa due to wildfires and smoke. However, a lot of the harvest was done before the wildfires and smoke. Many producers that harvested after the fires, they didn't bottle it all, or they drastically cut allocation. This is very interesting. The winemaker of Napanook is Christian Muix. He's the winemaker at Dominus. He's got very, very strict standards. Dominus sells for like $350 or so a bottle. It's a very fine California wine. So Dominus Estate itself was not bottled in 2020 due to concerns over smoke taint. Instead, the fruit that was clean enough that passed Christian Muix's high standards went into Napanook, the estate's second wine. So what this means is this particular Napanook, the 2020, it's essentially declassified Dominus fruit, making it a really strong value play in a compromised year. So could this be an unfair advantage where this bottle right here has the fruit that was supposed to go into a $350 bottle of wine just purely based on vintage conditions? We're going to find out. So the blend of this wine, it's typically Cabernet Sauvignon Dominus, you would expect in a California cab, really about 90 to 95%. It has a little bit of Cab Franc for aromatic lift and a little bit of Petit Verdot for color. And so what you're not going to find in here is mega purple, because Christian Muix is very, very strict about good, honest winemaking and not dumping that garbage into his wine. Talk about the style. Aromas of blackcurrant, plum, graphite, tobacco, and a little bit of dried herbs. Sounds sort of like our Bordeaux a little bit. So the palate has structure on it, but it's a little more approachable than you would say the Dominus early on. Medium plus bodied. It's got balanced acidity, refined tannins. Avoid smoke taint because Christian Muix would never allow that fruit to come into his wine, and it comes across as fresh, clean, and classic in profile. The alcohol on this one, 14.5%, so maybe a little bit higher than this one, but they're pretty equal. This is actually restrained from Napa standards, which are getting up to 15.5 or God forbid 16%. And so the drinking window on this is 2025 to 2035. So right about the drinking window for our Bordeaux as well. Now it's more accessible young than the higher end Dominus, but it's still capable of aging a decade plus. Guess what? We're not aging either of these wines a second longer because we're going to put them head to head in a wine fight and both will be consumed. Let's talk about the wild card here, the possible unfair advantage for the Napa cab. The wild card is Christian Muix. He was born in Libourne, France in 1946 into the very famous winemaking Muix family who owned and managed several right bank Bordeaux estates. Generally in the right banks in Bordeaux, you're going to find that the Merlot is the dominant grape, not Cabernet Sauvignon. So is this an unfair advantage? Is it not? Well, Christian studied viticulture and enology at the UC Davis in California, which kind of gives him an exposure to New World winemaking. So he's got one foot in Bordeaux, he's got one foot in California, but he's coming down on the side of the Napanook. He's best known for managing and elevating some of the most prestigious estates in Pomerol and Saint-Emilion. Château Petrus? Hey, you could pay $10,000 for a bottle of Château Petrus. 100% Merlot, by the way. He managed Château Petrus for decades, and it's one of the most coveted and maybe a little overblown wines in the world. Château Trantenoy, fantastic Pomerol wine. Château Lafleur Petrus, another fantastic Pomerol wine. I mean, we're talking about wines that can sell for thousands of dollars a bottle. However, these are mostly Merlot wines, not Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's very interesting that Christian Mouix went to California instead of left bank Bordeaux to make Cabernet Sauvignon. He was very, very instrumental in promoting right bank based Merlot wines to global fame, particularly in the US. So he's been a Merlot guy, and now he's come over to the Cabernet Sauvignon side. In 1982, Christian Mouix founded Dominus Estate in Napa Valley, classic, iconic producer that sells wines at $300 to $400 a bottle in the historic Napanook vineyard in Yountville. His philosophy in Napa is very, very Bordeaux inspired. It's restraint, balance, terroir expression over big extracted wines like Camus. Dominus is now considered one of the greatest Napa Cabernets, and it's often compared to first growth Bordeaux in style and longevity. And remember, the first growth is completely left bank. He's comparing Dominus to some of the greats like Chateau Latour, Chateau Lafite Rothschild, Chateau Mouton Rothschild. That's very, very high praise indeed. He also produces today's competitor, Napanook, which is a more approachable and affordable second wine from the estate. Each of these wines goes for about the same price, about $90, and they're just absolutely fantastic value. I would say that the Napanook of any vintage is one of the few Napa Cab values under $100. Christian Mouix is bringing Bordeaux philosophy to California. Winemaking philosophy. He is focusing on terroir-driven wine, balance, age-worthiness, avoids excessive alcohol, avoids excessive oak, and that sets his Napa Cabs apart from many of the richer and overdone California style. He's got a strong belief in vineyard health, and meticulous viticulture is the foundation of a great wine. Is this Napanook 2020, is it a ringer? Well, it might be, because this fight just got really interesting with Christian Mouix's influence and intimate knowledge of both Bordeaux and the use of the grapes that were supposed to go into Dominus for the 2020 vintage. See, this Napanook might just be a ringer. It might be a level above the Château Grand Puy Lacoste, a mere fifth growth Bordeaux. Is this fair? Should this be allowed in a wine fight? Is it against the rules? Is it cheating? Hell no, it's not cheating. In a no-holds-barred, knockdown, drag-out, rock and roll party in the streets, there are no rules, everything is fair game, and the winner is a true champion. There's no cheating in wine unless you're doctoring the wine, but there is no doctoring in either of these wines. I will say this, no Pauillac is ever gonna back down from a fight. That is an AOC that is a region that has 3 first growths, and if you think a Pauillac is afraid of any mere California wine, any Johnny-come-lately, you gotta be kidding yourself. Enough talking, enough setup, enough stories, enough allegations of cheating. Let's start the wine fight. So here's how this is gonna work. I am going to grade each one on the whole bottle experience it delivers. Not just a taste and spit, not just a glass, not some lame brain food pairing or anything like that. See, this isn't a 2-minute taste and spit spat. This is gonna be a grueling, hours-long fight to the finish. And it might just come down to the final drop in each bottle. So the competition begins now. So the way I'm gonna do it is this, I have Corvine, each of the wines, so we have an equal amount in a Bordeaux style glass. These have been opening up for about an hour each. To give this a fair competition, I am going to drink tonight after this video the entire bottle of the Château Grand Puy Lacoste. I've done twofers in my life. I'm not gonna do a twofer tonight. I feel it would be very unfair to the Napanook for me to drink it right after I just drank a whole bottle of wine. I might not be able to give it the proper evaluation. So I'm gonna defer this one to my next winemaking time, and then I'm gonna shoot my whole bottle review about that. With this one right here, I'm going to put a few more drops in for our initial taste and spit review, and I'm gonna use Corvine just to let you know that yes, this is indeed the Napanook 2020. There we go. Uses of Corvine. And then what I am going to do is I am going to open the Château Grand Puy Lacoste 2018, pour a few drops into this glass, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna compare colors, we're gonna compare aromas. I'm going to give you my initial sip and swallow review to see where each one starts. But the real magic of any wine is how it changes and evolves as you go through the bottle. And that's where we're really gonna get into a true wine fight here, because I don't care about any ridiculous taste and spit review. Each of these wines is gonna evolve, they're gonna change in its own manner. It's gonna bring up emotions, feelings, memories. Each one's gonna take me on an emotional journey. And that's where the real evaluation is going to come in. Which one delivered the true whole bottle experience that just knocked me off my feet? I have a feeling that each of these wines is going to deliver a completely different, unique experience to its bottle, and it's going to be very, very close. That being said, I'm going to declare a true winner. There are not going to be any ties or any lame brain cop-outs in this wine fight. We will have a winner here. Both bottles will be consumed. So the true winner, of course, is going to be me, because I get to drink both of these magnificent bottles. However, you will also be a winner as well, because you will be able to look forward to two totally different wine experiences, same grape, different regions. And that really is part of the magic of wine. All right, I think we have a good cork here. Sure looks like it. All right, very good. Let us pour. All right, a little Bordeaux just to see that it goes into the right glass. Now we're going to have a look at them in the glass. I'm going to have a look at the Napanook first. What I like about this is I can look at it as a gorgeous ruby, but it's not inky and purple with a lot of mega purple in there. It's a good, honest, younger Cabernet Sauvignon. I don't see any bricking, don't see any wine faults in there. It's a gorgeous, young-looking Cabernet Sauvignon. Let's have a look at the Pauillac as well. I would say maybe it looks just a little darker. You can see a tiny bit of orange starting to form around the rim, but it looks very, very similar to the California. So this right here will be your Pauillac. This right here is going to be your Napanook. They look very, very similar in the glass. And remember, the California wines, Christian Mio, has a lot of Bordeaux influence. So maybe we should sort of expect that because they're virtually about the same age. Let's move on to the nose. We're going to start off with the Napanook. See what we get here. Both of these wines have been opening up in the glass for a couple of hours. Immediately, wonderful blackberries, wonderful California blackberries. And what I also notice is not the absence of oak. I actually get some baking spices in here and a tiny bit of vanilla, but I don't get a big slap of vanilla that just wonks me in the face. It's there, but it's under the fruit. And remember, that's what gives the California wines their magic. Guys, that fruit's just gorgeous. There's just this blackberry, cassis, black plum, juicy, ripe, maybe almost bordering on overripe, but not crossing the line. And the other thing I get, there's a richness on the nose, there's a lusciousness, but again, it's not overdone. It still maintains an elegance. I mean, you can tell that this is a California cab that does have Bordeaux influences in it. So let's go over to our Bordeaux. Let's nose it, see what we get. I get a little bit more vanilla on this one from New Oak. I certainly get blackberries, black plum, maybe perhaps a little bit of tobacco, but I'm going to tell you, the noses on both of these wines are actually very similar. That's kind of a good thing. Two well-made wines, a little bit more oak in this, a little bit more vanilla, a little bit more fruit in this, a little bit more richness. So the next thing to do, let's take a sip and see where we're at. We're going to start with the Napanook 2020. Oh gosh. That's just rich, beautiful blackberry, blackcurrant, cassis, more toward the berry than the plum. A little bit of baking spices, a little bit of vanilla, but the mouthfeel is just fantastic. It's luscious without being overdone, and it's all about the fruit. Actually, you get a little bit of minerality in here, which is definitely a point in this wine's favor, because I'm a guy that likes minerality. You usually expect more minerality in some of the old worlds, but certainly in the California, you can get minerality as well. And there's a little bit of minerality in there, which is quite nice. But this is a wine, it has a richness to it, but it's definitely not too rich. I'm gonna be really, really interested to see how this one changes and evolves as I go through the bottle, because there's gonna be a beautiful evolution. Now, let's taste it side by side with the 2018 Château Grand Puy Lacoste from Pauillac. Okay, this one here, these are two I would say are definitely starting out equal but in different ways. You definitely get the fruit. You definitely get the tobacco. There's definitely some earth that comes in there. I would say there's a little bit of pyrazine, which is a bell pepper. It can come across as cedar and tobacco. And so I would say right now this one is a little bit more complex than the Napanook. This one is a little bit richer, really featuring the fruit. The fruit just really jumps out on this. The fruit on this one is a little more restrained, a little more integrated with the tobacco. Definitely get the earth in here. And so again, we have what we would expect from both of these wines. Fruit, power, richness, not too rich. We have balance in this wine. fruit, earth, tobacco. There's some graphite in there for sure. Definitely has amazing potential to develop over the course of the evening. And so usually I would give, if I'm doing a whole bottle review, I would give an initial sip and swallow score. I am actually not going to do that because I can tell that trying to give each one of them an initial sip and swallow score is just an exercise in futility because it shows the reason why I hate these taste and spit reviews. I can taste both of them and say, my God in heaven, these wines are going to evolve beautifully as they open up and I go through the whole bottle and contemplate them. I don't know where they're going to go. That's pretty neat. This one, I think I'm going to get more and more fruit, and it's going to lengthen, it's going to heighten. This one, I think I'm going to get a lot more flavors that come out. I think the tobacco is going to get sweet. I think it's going to get rounder, but I don't know. There's definitely an earthy component going through this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say both of these wines right now have gotten out of the gate in an equal way. There will be no ties. I will declare a winner. But instead of giving you my initial sip and swallow score, I'm going to very carefully contemplate this wine fight from first drop to last drop. So I am going to drink the Château Grand Puy Lacoste over a 4 or 5 hour period. I'm going to contemplate it. And the next time I drink wine in a week or so, you'll see both videos back to back. I am going to give the same equal consideration to this very worthy contender, Christian Mouik Napanook 2020. What I will be very interested to see about this one is the Dominus fruit going to really take a commanding lead maybe around glass 3 or glass 4, or is the balance of this wine as it evolves and changes and comes together, is it going to take the lead and how are they going to finish? But these are two worthy contenders from a wine fight. Each one of them has landed a punch right out of the gate. So stay tuned for my whole bottle review of both the Château Grand Puy Lacoste 2018, the Napanook 2020, and in the end, no matter how close it is, I am going to declare a winner. I have returned, fully recovered from my wine hangover from the 2018 Château Grand Puy Lacoste, our first competitor, and ready to give you my whole bottle review of the first one. As you can see, the whole bottle has been consumed, and our California competitor is still fully intact. Yes, I can drink wine and take notes. So what I want to do is I want to step through glass by glass by glass of the Château Grand Puy Lacoste 2018 to give you an idea of how this wine started, how it finished. Then I'm going to give you my whole bottle score, and then when it's wine drinking time again, I'm going to introduce our second competitor, give that my whole bottle review, and then we're going to crown the king of cab. So let's get started. What happened with the 2018 Château Grand Puy Lacoste? So glass number one, when I first tasted this wine, what I got was every tasting note was very distinct. Great blackberries, great earth, tobacco, some graphite, some mineral, but each one of them was a little bit distinct. The wine was certainly tannic. I'm not going to say it was rough, but it wasn't polished. That's what you would expect in a young Pauillac. But as I tasted it, as I went through the first glass, every tasting note was kind of distinct. The wine hadn't quite come together, but I started to get toward the end of the first glass a little bit of evolution, and that's a good thing. So to get into glass two, I started to get some gradual evolution. In the first glass, there was a little bit of a green element with the tobacco. That wasn't a very pleasant thing. But luckily that green element began to fade out and it was replaced by a really nice sweet pipe tobacco, which is something I always look for in the Pauillacs. I don't like green tobacco, but that sweet pipe tobacco that kind of reminds me of my grandpa, I really love that. And so there was a gradual evolution of the tobacco, which made me pretty happy. What also happened is what we call NFI, non-fruit indicators. And so that would be like earth, tobacco, pyrazine, which is what you're going to get the tobacco from. It's the chemical that's in green bell pepper that's in all the Bordeaux varietals. What happened was that the fruit started to kind of come to the front. And certainly the NFI, the non-fruit indicators, didn't disappear, but they began to take a little bit of a back seat, which I sort of like. So we had the fruit up here, maybe 60% fruit, and then we had 40% non-fruit indicators for tobacco, earth, some minerality, which as an American wine drinker, I like that quite a bit. I like balance in my wines, but I like to see it skewed a little bit before the fruit, and I was happy to see that the fruit, probably because of a warm vintage, in glass two really began to come forward. In glass three, so this was a 78% Cabernet Sauvignon, 22% Merlot blend. I could feel the blend start to come together. There was a little softness, a little roundness from the Merlot Merlot. This wasn't a rough wine, but I wouldn't say that it was quite polished or very well integrated yet. I mean, this is a Pauillac, and Pauillacs are known for taking a long time. I would say this was a classic young Pauillac, but I could start to feel the blends start to come together, the mouthfeel begin to get a little bit softer, the fruit began to take on more of a juicy component. Again, maybe it started to weigh towards 65% fruit, 35% of the NFI, non-fruit indicators, but I thought it was quite a well-balanced and a very nicely evolving wine. So we got to glass 4 or 5, the wine really began to hit its stride. And what I want to see is this is when the flavors start to meld together. And so with individual tasting notes, okay, you got blackberry, okay, you get tobacco, that's fine. But what I want to see is I want to see them come together and begin to create their own flavor. And that's what happened. So what I mean is we got not just blackberry or tobacco, but blackberry tobacco. Blackberry and tobacco all rolled into one. We got some earth and tobacco all rolled into one. We got some minerality into it. And so it started to become really its own animal. Blackberry, earth, tobacco all kind of rolled into one to create a new unique flavor. Now there was still this stream of pipe tobacco running underneath it and the fruit to the front, and that's what I like to see in my Pauillac. So this started to come together very nicely as I got to glass 4. It got better and better as it went to glass 5, and I thought that it had a really strong finish. This was a young Bordeaux and a young Pauillac. This will be much better in 10 years and probably better in 20 years. Well, I do like to make fun of people that say, need 10 more years, need 10 more years. In many circumstances, particularly dealing with Bordeaux, that's the truth. I found this to be a very enjoyable bottle of wine now, but it will be substantially better in 10 years, maybe even 20 years. Did this bring up any emotions and memories and feelings? No, not really. It made me feel happy because I was drinking wine. It made me feel relaxed. It made me feel mellow. So there was a little bit of an emotional component as I went through the bottle. I was happy to be drinking a Bordeaux, but I certainly wouldn't say that this one was like a true amazing wine experience that brought up feelings I hadn't felt in 30 years or memories I hadn't thought about since I was a kid or anything like that. There was really none of that going on. Perhaps in 10 more years you might get some of that. I just thought this was a good, honest bottle of Pauillac Bordeaux, a young one that came together very nicely at the end. So my whole bottle review score of this bottle, I'm going to give it a 96.5. I thought it had a little that it kind of sprinted toward the finish line at the end. I really liked the evolution as we were getting closer and closer and closer to the end, and everything started to come together. So I would say this was a good solid 96.5. Not quite a 97 territory because it didn't have an emotional component to it, but it was a thoroughly enjoyable bottle of wine. Now, what's going to happen next? Now that we set the stage, now that we have our first whole bottle review in our competition, what's going to happen with the Napanook 2020? Is it going to come right out of the gate and blow it away? Is it going to falter before it gets to the end? Completely different style. So we're going to see what's going to happen. During my next whole bottle drinking day, which will come up very soon, I am going to give my full attention to the Napanook 2020. Then I will give it my final whole bottle review, and then I'm going to crown the king of cab. Will it be the Château Grand Puy Lacoste 2018, which has already put its best foot forward, or will it be the Napanook 2020, which is about to put its best foot forward? See you soon. I have returned, fully recovered from my California wine hangover, and ready to give you my full proprietary whole bottle review of the Napanook 2020, plus declare the winner in our Bordeaux versus California Cab wine fight, and there is a winner. It's close, but there's a definite winner and a definite reason why. But first, let me give you my whole bottle review of the Napanook 2020 because this was a very good bottle. So I always like to start off glass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the way it started off in glass 1 was we had a lot of fruit. I would say it was medium to medium plus body. Of course, you're gonna get some blackberry and some cassis and some black plum, and each one was sort of disparate. I would call it ripe, but not overripe or jammy. It was there, but it didn't leap out into your face. Something that I thought was very interesting about it was there actually was a little bit of red fruit in there, a little bit of raspberry, a little bit of tartness, which showed us that we had some great acidity in the wine. The only thing about the first glass that I didn't care too much for was the fact that the finish was a little bitter on the end throughout not only the whole first glass, but the second glass as well. Now, for whatever reason, I've had that happen with a lot of great Napa cabs that have come to life around glass 3. And if you're a Napa cab lover, if you've dealt with that, if you know how to get that into like a half of glass 1, please let me know in the comment section, because for me, a lover of Napa cabs, it can be frustrating. For example, this beautiful bottle of Dun Howell Mountain 2019, it's a $220 bottle of wine. I had the same thing happen. The first 2 glasses were bitter on the finish, and then it came to life. And so that's what happened with the Napanook, because I got into glass 2, the bitterness on the finish was still there, but you could feel the fruit kind of start to move a little bit, to become a little bit bigger, a little bit brighter. God, the blackberries was fantastic. The mouthfeel started to become bigger. It was actually very interesting. At first I would have said that this was a medium wine, but as I started to go through it, the wine started to get bigger, and I really like that. That's what I love about California cabs. So the blackberries got bigger, the black plums got bigger, the raspberry got bigger. It was almost like the wine was blooming a little bit, like a balloon. It was kind of beginning to blow up. And then when I got into glass 3, boom, the bitterness on the finish was gone, the wine was there, and it was really starting to hit its stride. And what I really liked about it was with each sip, it got richer and richer and richer. If I had just started with the first or second glass, I would not have said this was a rich wine at all. But that's why we do whole bottle reviews, because it wasn't until the beginning of glass 3 where I was like, wow, there's that richness. It really defines a California. It was new, it was bright, it was just fantastic. And every sip all the way to the end of glass 5 got richer and richer and richer. And so right around glass 4, boy, that fruit was just humming along. I mean, it was just big, it was luscious, it was polished. There was definitely a tannin there, but it was behind the fruit. And so every sip I took, it was just like walking through here we can use the word a bramble, but it was like a bramble patch of blackberries, just picking them out, eating these juicy, luscious blackberries, reaching up, grabbing a perfectly ripe black plum, grabbing a little bit of raspberry. There might have been a little bit of graphite there, a little bit of mineral, but it was all behind the fruit. And what I loved about this wine was it got just richer and richer and richer toward the end. And so the one thing that I always want to look for is there something that defines the wine? And in this case, the Napanook 2020, what defined it was the acceleration of the richness as it went in there. It didn't start out as a rich wine, but my God, right toward the end, it almost got too rich, but it didn't cross the line. And so if you're a lover of Napa cabs, that's what you're going to love about this wine. Now, did it bring up any emotions as I went through the wine? No, not really. I was happy that I was drinking wine. I felt relaxed. I felt happy. I felt mellow. The wine held my attention because I wanted to see, we're going to keep getting this wonderful evolution of these rich fruits as I went in there. And yes, I did. But it didn't really take me on an emotional journey. It didn't bring up any old memories or anything like that. It was just a great bottle of Napa Cab. And so I am going to give this a whole bottle review score of 96. And so what that means is the Château Grand Puy Lacoste with a score of 96.5 is the king of cab in this wine fight. Now, why did I score this one slightly higher than this one? And look, to be honest, if you're a California wine lover, you would have gone with the Napanook. If you're a Bordeaux lover, you would have gone with the Bordeaux because they each evolved, they each showcased all of their charms. I'm someone that loves both equally, and here's why I went with the Bordeaux by just a hair. The Bordeaux, when it started out, had a little green in the first glass. I don't care much for that, but by the second glass, it had blown off, and it started giving us that wonderful structure, that wonderful layer, those wonderful tertiary flavors that the Bordeaux are known for. Now, I'm an American. I like fruit in my wine. The tertiary flavors in this Bordeaux did not overwhelm the fruit. In fact, they began to take a back seat to the fruit. So to me, there was a little California element. So I got some grapefruit from this one, grapefruit from this one. And the reason that I went with the Château Grand Puy Lacoste 2018 is the winner was because this one gave me 4 fantastic glasses, while this one gave me 3. Now, I might say the final 3 glasses of the Napanook 2020 were slightly better than the last 3 glasses of the Château Grand Puy Lacoste, but in my wines, I want 5 full glasses that I can enjoy. I got 4 out of this one, I got 3 out of this one, so based on that very narrow difference, I'm going to go with the Château Grand Puy Lacoste. Look, like I said, if you love California, you're going to love this one. You love Bordeaux, you're going to love the Château Grand Puy Lacoste. You can't go wrong with either wine, but for today, the winner of this wine fight is the Château Grand Puy Lacoste 2018. Now, what's better than one wine fight? What's better than one video with 2 whole bottle reviews? Another one with 2 whole bottle reviews, another wine fight. So stay tuned for my next wine fight coming up now.